What's up, YouTube? Back again with another quick video. Today's video, I wanted to talk to you folks about algae eaters. The top 3 algae eaters I keep in my tanks. So the first one would be bushy-nosed plecos, second would be Siamese algae eaters, and third would be nerite snails. Now I'm going to go back through that list. I'm going to name some pros and cons of having each one of those animals and what specific algae each one will actually eat. Now first, before I get into all that, I wanted to show you this cool cucumber I have in my tank. And the reason why I want to show you that cucumber is you'll notice that my plecos are actually gnawing away at it. Now, since we're talking about algae eaters, I just want to address a misconception that I see a lot of newer hobbies get into or believe is that algae eaters just eat algae. Now, that is a part of their diet, and they will eat algae, but algae eaters actually do eat other things besides algae, like cucumbers, like my plecos are eating right now. I'll feed my algae eaters anything from cucumbers to small pieces of shrimp, algae wafers, thinking algae wafers, fish flakes. So they eat a wide spectrum of things. So not just algae. So just wanted to point that out before I get into my list. But back to my list, you'll see, since we're talking about that cucumber, and you'll see on the cucumber are bushy-nosed plecos. Now I'm going to pan in slowly. All right, cool. Focus in on that. Light's a little bit bright, but those are my bushy-nosed plecos. Now these plecos are relatively, I would say, an all-around great algae eater. Now, the reason I say that is because they're small. They don't get too big. They get about 6 inches or so. And they do a great job with plants in a planted tank. Now, because they don't get so big, they won't gnaw away at plants. They won't graze as intensely as some of the larger algae eaters, like larger plecos or Chinese algae eaters. I do have a couple of Chinese algae eaters, and they just damage my leaves, my plant leaves, when they graze for algae. Now these bushy-nosed plecos don't get as big, so they're a little bit easier on the plant leaves. The only gripe I would have with a pleco is they do get a little bit territorial. So if you do have them in a group, they are cave spawners, and they'll fight over, territories where they could potentially breed. So you might want to watch out for that. Plecos will, attack each other. But I would say the bushy-nosed plecos are a great all-around algae eater. Anywhere from green algae or even I've seen them pick away at blackbeard algae also. But they're not known to really damage the blackbeard algae or hair algae. The next animal I want to talk about in my algae eating crew would be this Siamese algae eater right here. Now the light, I just turned it on, so they're a little bit kind of dazed, so they're not really swimming around. But this is a Siamese algae eater, great fish for eating any string algae, hair algae, blackbeard algae. Those guys, or those two types of algae, is kind of the worst algae in my opinion, just because they look the ugliest. They kind of sway with the current, and they get super long. And especially blackbeard algae looks like real hair. It's kind of nasty. So definitely these guys. They do get a little bit bigger. I've seen them around 5 inches at a couple of pet stores. So if you have a smaller tank, this maybe not be suitable for a 10-gallon. Maybe when they're young, but they can outgrow it. So just keep that in mind when you guys buy them. But yeah, these guys do a great job for string algae, hair algae, blackbeard algae. Basically, those guys will, do work on that stuff. Again, these will actually eat fish flakes and chew at the cucumber also. So it's really important to feed your algae eaters a variety in their diet. Lastly, I want to talk about nerite snails. Can't find any in my tank right now by looking at it. Yes, I do not see any. But I know I do have some of them in here. Basically, nerite snails are snails that are actually brackish water. They breed in brackish water, but they can survive in salt water. And the reason why I want to put them on my list is because they are great at eating diatom or brown algae. You'll see this algae when you first set up a tank. It kind of has like a thin brown film on your plant leaves or just all over your tank. These guys do a great job at, gnawing away with their little teeth at this diatom algae, or even green algae that grows on plants and on your glass. So these guys do a great job. They're a little bit slower than the plecos, but they're snails. They're peaceful. They won't, damage your plants. One con I would say with these guys are they do lay these white eggs, and these white eggs kind of could be an eyesore to people. These eggs will never hatch, but you'll see them all over your plants and your driftwood, and that could be slightly annoying for some people. But on the bright side, that they won't hatch, and I know a lot of hobbyists don't really like snails, like ram horn snails or trumpet snails that will breed like crazy. You won't have that problem with these snails, these nerite snails. Plus, they look great. They're a little bit on the pricey side, but they do a great job cleaning brown diatom algae. So, those are my top three algae eating animals that I use in my tanks. I'm sure there's definitely more. I know for sure there's definitely more. If you folks use something else, please drop a comment. Let me know what you guys use. And let me know if you found this video helpful. And if you liked it, please drop a like. If not, then hopefully you'll like the next video. Thank you. See you folks next time.